The bonds they had created would only grow stronger, and together they would rise to meet whatever lay ahead. The galaxy had underestimated them before, but now they would see the true power of the human spirit and the strength of unity. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a planet named Xandar was in great danger. The sky was filled with dark ships, and the sound of explosions echoed across the land. The once peaceful world was now a battlefield. Alien races, who had lived in harmony for centuries, were now fighting for their survival against a ruthless enemy known as the Vorkons. These enemies were strong and had powerful weapons, and it seemed that hope was fading for the inhabitants of Xandar. Among the defenders was Captain Vela, a brave leader of the Xentar race. She stood on the high ground looking down at her soldiers. Their faces were filled with fear and fatigue. Vela's heart sank as she saw the despair in their eyes. "We must hold the line," she shouted, trying to inspire her troops. "If we do not fight, we will lose everything." Her words echoed in the cold air, but Vela could feel the uncertainty among her soldiers. They had already lost many friends and family members in the battle, and the Vorkans showed no signs of stopping. Vela clenched her fists, determined to keep fighting. But deep down, she knew they needed more than courage, they needed a miracle. As the battle raged on, a small group of alien leaders gathered in a hidden chamber beneath the ground. They had a desperate plan to awaken a human soldier who had been frozen in cryogenic sleep for decades. The humans were known for their fierce fighting spirit and incredible resilience. However, there was also doubt among the leaders. "Can we trust him?" one asked, his voice shaking. "What if he turns against us?" Vela, listening to the discussion, stepped forward. "We have no other choice. The Vorkans are closing in, and we need every ally we can find. I believe this soldier can help us." Her voice was strong, filled with hope. The leaders exchanged uncertain glances, but finally agreed. They would awaken the human. In the dimly lit chamber, they approached the cryo chamber. The blue glow of the machine was mesmerizing, and Vela felt a strange mixture of excitement and fear. The leaders pressed buttons, and the chamber hummed to life. Slowly the door opened, releasing a cool mist. There, lying inside, was Major Alex Reed, a soldier of Earth who had been frozen in time. Reed awoke, blinking against the bright light. Confusion filled his eyes as he looked around. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough from sleep. Vela stepped forward, introducing herself and explaining the dire situation. "We need your help, Major. Our world is under attack and we are losing hope." Reed listened carefully, and as he understood the gravity of their plight, his eyes narrowed with determination. "I'll help you fight," he said, his voice steady. The aliens were surprised at his willingness. They had feared he might be angry or scared, but instead he radiated confidence. Vela felt a wave of relief wash over her. Together, they returned to the battlefield, where the sounds of war grew louder. Vela introduced Reed to her soldiers, who looked at him with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Some whispered among themselves, wondering if a human could really help them. Reed stood tall, addressing the troops. "I know you may not trust me, but I am here to fight alongside you. Humans have faced impossible odds before, and we have always found a way to survive. We will fight together!" His words ignited a spark of hope among the soldiers. They began to cheer, feeling a new energy coursing through them. As they prepared for battle, Reed worked closely with Vela, teaching the aliens some human tactics. He explained the importance of teamwork and strategy, emphasizing that they had to rely on each other if they wanted to win. The aliens trained hard, practicing maneuvers and forming bonds with their new ally. In the shadows of the planet, the Vorkans were gathering their forces, unaware of the new alliance forming against them. With a human soldier in their midst, the defenders of Xandar felt their spirits lift. For the first time in weeks, they dared to hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn the tide of this battle. As night fell, they stood together, ready to face whatever came next, united by courage and the promise of victory. The dawn broke over Xandar, casting a warm glow on the battlefield. The air was thick with tension, and the sounds of war echoed in the distance. Major Alex Reed stood beside Captain Vela, gazing at the horizon. Today, they would prepare for their first real fight together against the Vorkans. Vela had high hopes, but she knew they needed to earn each other's trust. As the sun rose higher, the coalition gathered in a makeshift camp. Reed watched as the alien soldiers practiced their formations, their faces still showing traces of doubt. Some whispered among themselves, unsure about the human soldier. Could he really be their savior? Vela sensed the unease and knew that today was crucial. "Listen up, everyone," Vela called, her voice cutting through the morning air. The soldiers turned to her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. "Today, we face the Vorkans head-on. Major Reed has fought battles we can only imagine. He has valuable skills to share. Let's hear what he has to say." Reed stepped forward, feeling the weight of their eyes on him. "Thank you, Captain. I understand that I am new to your ways, but I promise to give my all." He took a deep breath and continued. "In war, every second counts. We need to act fast and work as a team. Let's put aside our fears and focus on winning this battle." Some soldiers still looked doubtful, but a few nodded in agreement. Reed proposed a plan. They would launch a surprise attack at dawn the next day using their combined strengths. He emphasized the importance of communication and trust. "If we are to succeed, we must rely on each other," he said. "You know your land and your enemies better than I do. Let's work together." As the day went on, Reed spent time with the alien soldiers, showing them human tactics and techniques. They practiced movements that combined their unique skills. Reed demonstrated how to work together as a unit, and slowly the soldiers began to understand. They laughed and shared stories, breaking down the barriers between them. One young soldier named Tally was particularly eager to learn. She approached Reed with bright eyes. "Teach me how to throw a grenade! I want to be ready!" she said, excitement bubbling in her voice. Reed smiled and showed her how to aim and throw, ensuring she felt confident in her abilities. As they trained, he admired her enthusiasm and spirit. However, not everyone was convinced. A veteran soldier named Kral remained skeptical. He stood at a distance, arms crossed, and a scowl on his face. "What makes you think a human can help us? We have our own ways of fighting," he challenged. The other soldiers grew silent, sensing the tension. Reed met Kral's gaze. "I understand your doubts," he replied calmly, "but I'm not here to replace your methods. I'm here to support you. Together we can learn from each other. That's how we'll defeat the Vorkans." Kral hesitated, still unsure, but the determination in Reed's voice made him think. As the sun set, the coalition gathered for a final briefing. Vela looked around at the soldiers, now filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "Tomorrow, we will fight for our homes and families. Let's remember that we are stronger together," she said. Reed nodded in agreement. "And if we can win this battle, we can build a future where we all stand united. Trust is everything. Let's fight for one another." The soldiers began to murmur in agreement. Kral finally uncrossed his arms and nodded, albeit reluctantly. Reed felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they were starting to accept him as one of their own. That night, as the stars twinkled above, the coalition prepared for battle. They shared stories, ate together, and began to forge bonds. Reed felt a growing sense of belonging among these warriors. He realized that they were no longer just allies, they were becoming friends. As sleep took over, the soldiers closed their eyes with renewed determination. They dreamed of victory and the hope of a brighter future. Tomorrow, they would stand together as one, ready to face the Vorkans, knowing that they had a powerful new ally in Major Alex Reed. The sun rose slowly over Xandar, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The atmosphere in the coalition camp was tense but filled with determination. Major Alex Reed, Captain Vela, and the alien leaders gathered around a large map spread out on a makeshift table. Today they would finalize their battle plan against the Vorkans. Reed studied the map closely. He traced the paths of the Vorkan forces with his finger, noting their movements. "They have a stronghold here at the edge of the forest. If we can strike there, we might catch them off guard," he said, pointing to a spot marked with a red X. Vela nodded, her eyes sharp with focus. "But we must be careful. They have powerful weapons and are well prepared. We need to find a way to disrupt their defenses first." An older alien leader, Commander Zenth, leaned forward. "We have reports of a supply route. If we attack their supplies, it will weaken their strength. But we must do it quickly and quietly." Reed smiled, feeling a spark of excitement. "That's a great idea. We can split our forces. One group can create a distraction at the stronghold, while the other strikes the supply route." The leaders exchanged glances, considering the proposal. Kral, the skeptical soldier, crossed his arms again. "And what makes you think your plan will work? What if we fail? We cannot afford any more losses." Reed turned to Kral, meeting his gaze with confidence. I understand your concerns, Kral, but this is our best chance. If we work together, we can outsmart the Vorkans. We need to trust each other. Kral hesitated, but the other soldiers began to nod in agreement. Vela spoke up, her voice steady. We have fought for so long, and Major Reed has shown us that he believes in us. If we unite, we can do this. The weight of her words settled in the air, and Kral finally uncrossed his arms. All right, let's hear the full plan, Kral said reluctantly. Reed continued, detailing the strategy. They would attack the supply route at dawn when the Vorkans would be less alert. Vela would lead a small team to create a diversion, making noise and drawing attention to the stronghold. Meanwhile, Reed would lead a second group to sneak into the supply area, destroying their resources. Timing is everything, Reed explained. Once we create chaos at the stronghold, we have to act fast. We'll hit them where it hurts, and then we can regroup. The coalition leaders began to share their thoughts and concerns, adjusting the plan as they discussed. Reed listened carefully, incorporating their ideas. They decided on roles for each soldier, making sure everyone felt included and valued. This created a sense of camaraderie among them, and even Kral began to look more engaged. As the final details were set, excitement filled the room. The soldiers felt a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting as a united front, ready to take back their world. Before they dispersed, Reed spoke one last time. Remember, trust each other and watch each other's backs. This is our chance to change everything. We will fight for our homes and families. Let's make it count! The soldiers cheered, their spirits high. They moved out to prepare for battle, sharpening weapons and checking their gear. Vela and Reed exchanged glances, both feeling the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. They knew that tomorrow would be a defining moment for all of them. That night, as the stars twinkled brightly in the sky, the coalition slept in uneasy anticipation. They each had dreams filled with images of battles, bravery, and hope. As dawn approached, they awoke with a mix of fear and determination. At first light, they gathered one last time. Vela looked at her troops, seeing the resolve in their eyes. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for each other, she declared, her voice strong and clear. Reed stepped forward, standing tall among them. Let's make history today. Together, we are unstoppable. With renewed energy, the coalition set out toward the battlefield, ready to face the Vorkans. They moved as one, determined to reclaim their planet and prove that even when hope seems lost, courage and unity can light the way to victory. Dawn broke over Xandar, and the battlefield buzzed with anticipation. The air was thick with tension as Major Alex Reed and Captain Vela led their coalition toward the Vorkan stronghold. They moved stealthily through the dense forest, hearts pounding with determination. Every soldier was ready to fight for their homes, united under one goal: to defeat the enemy. As they neared the stronghold, Reed signaled for the group to stop. He peered through the trees, spotting the Vorkan camp. Towers of metal loomed above, and soldiers patrolled the perimeter. Reed turned to Vela, their eyes locking in mutual understanding. This is it. We need to create a distraction now, he whispered. Vela nodded, her voice steady. All right, remember the plan. We strike hard and fast. Let's do this. With a deep breath, Reed stepped back and motioned to the second group. Ready? He asked. The soldiers nodded, gripping their weapons tightly. The tension in the air was palpable as Vela and her team moved into position, ready to create chaos at the stronghold. At the same time, Reed and his group slipped silently toward the supply route, careful to avoid detection. They moved like shadows, hearts racing, aware of the stakes. Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out from the direction of the stronghold. Vela had ignited the diversion. Reed's heart raced. Now! Move! He shouted, and they sprinted toward the supply area. The sound of shouting and confusion from the Vorkan camp filled the air, and adrenaline surged through their veins. As they reached the supply depot, Reed's team split into smaller groups, ready to sabotage the Vorkan supplies. They found crates stacked high, filled with weapons, food, and ammunition. Reed pointed to a crate. That one! We'll take it out first. The soldiers quickly got to work, planting explosives around the crate. Reed looked around, noticing the fear in some of their faces. Focus! We are doing this for our families, he reminded them, his voice firm. Just as they finished setting the charges, a loud horn echoed from the stronghold. The Vorkans had discovered the diversion. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. We have to hurry! They moved quickly, but as they stepped back, a group of Vorkan soldiers charged toward them. Reed's heart raced as he shouted, "Get ready to fight!" The clash of weapons filled the air as both sides collided. Reed swung his weapon, dodging and weaving through the chaos. The Vorkans were fierce fighters, their faces twisted in anger. But the Coalition soldiers were fueled by determination and hope. In the midst of the battle, Reed spotted Vela in the distance, leading her group as they fought their way toward the stronghold. Her bravery inspired him. "We can't let her down!" he yelled, rallying his team. They pushed forward, battling against the Vorkans, who were now fully aware of their presence. The ground shook as explosions erupted around them, the detonations from Vela's diversion providing a critical advantage. Reed shouted commands, urging his soldiers to stay together. As they fought, Reed's eyes locked onto a massive Vorkan soldier towering above the others. This soldier moved through the chaos like a tank, knocking down anything in his path. "We have to take him down!" Reed shouted. He gestured to Tali, who had shown great promise in training. "You can do this!" Tali nodded, fear replaced by resolve. She sprinted toward the Vorkan, taking advantage of the confusion. Reed followed closely behind, and together they dodged incoming attacks. Just as they reached the Vorkan, Tali leaped forward, using her agility to evade his strikes. She climbed onto his back and drove her weapon into his shoulder. The massive soldier roared in pain, stumbling back. Reed saw his chance. He lunged forward and struck the Vorkan hard, bringing him down to the ground. Cheers erupted from the Coalition soldiers as they watched Tali and Reed take down the giant. It was a pivotal moment, a surge of hope that spread through their ranks. But the battle was far from over. The Vorkans fought back fiercely, regrouping and pressing forward. Reed and his team continued to push against the tide of enemies, determination fueling their every move. They fought not just for victory, but for each other, every swing of their weapons echoing with the hope of a brighter future. As the dust settled, Reed caught sight of Vela leading her team, their faces determined and fierce. They had come together as one, fighting for their planet. The clash of forces continued, but with every passing moment, the Coalition grew stronger, more united in their quest for freedom. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun began to set over the battlefield, casting a warm golden glow on the remnants of the fierce clash. Smoke curled into the sky, and the air was thick with the scent of burnt metal and sweat. Major Alex Reed stood among his soldiers, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of pride and relief. The Vorkan stronghold had fallen, and the Coalition had won a hard-fought victory. As the dust settled, Reed took a moment to look around. The Coalition soldiers were tending to their wounded and celebrating their triumph, their spirits high. Vela rushed toward him, her face beaming with joy and exhaustion. "We did it, Alex! We actually did it!" she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. Reed smiled, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "Yes, we did, but let's not forget the cost. We lost many brave soldiers today." Vela nodded, her expression sobering. "I know. We must honor them. They fought for a better future." The two leaders moved through the makeshift camp, taking the time to check on their soldiers. They saw smiles on many faces, but also heard whispers of loss and sadness. Every soldier had a story, a reason for fighting. Reed felt the heaviness in his heart, knowing that while they had achieved a victory, the scars of war would remain. Later that evening, as night fell and the stars twinkled brightly above, the Coalition gathered for a ceremony to honor their fallen comrades. Reed stood before the group, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today we fought not just for ourselves, but for our families and our future. We stand here because of the courage of those who are no longer with us." Vela added, "Let us remember their bravery and sacrifice. They gave their lives for a cause greater than themselves. We must ensure that their dreams of peace and safety live on."